Everything I have ever done in my life, I did not want to do. Every single day, every single thing. I consider myself a lazy person, but I am also one of the hardest working people who has ever lived on this planet. I learned early on that no one is going to come and help me. It is just me against myself, period. That is the reality I had to face. So I decided to man up and told myself that the first thing I needed to start doing was facing every single fear I had. No matter what it was, these fears and challenges would keep me awake at night. People who hear this will never really understand or grasp what it means when you face these things. They do not understand how many different fears and problems can keep you up at night, haunting you constantly. I realized I had two choices in front of me. I could either stay as that 300-pound guy who sprayed for cockroaches and made only $1,000 a month. At 24 years old, I knew that when I reached 50, I would look back and think about the person I never became, or I could completely change everything. Be willing to fail over and over again until I finally succeeded. I chose the harder path. When the time comes that I cannot run anymore, my body will tell me that I just cannot run. But if I can still do something, if there is still any ability left in me, that willpower I have created makes me do it every single day. We all have what I call the easy voice inside our heads. This voice represents about 20% of our potential, and it tells us we are doing fine when we are only operating at maybe 90% of that small 20% capacity. Maybe we reach 100% of that 20%, but that is still not much. This easy voice is the one we all love to listen to. It is very comfortable and reassuring. It is like having your mother hold you and tell you that everything is going to be okay. This voice does not care how good you actually are. It just loves you no matter how messed up your life might be. Most people want to stay in this comfortable place, and that is where they choose to live. But there is another voice that we try very hard to avoid. This voice tells us the truth. It says things like, hey, you are not doing anything meaningful with your life. We try to get this voice completely out of our heads because we do not want to hear what it has to say. We prefer to live in that comfortable land with the easy voice instead. What you have to do first is turn up the volume on that other voice, the one that says things to you that are not nice to hear. I am not saying you should put yourself down or be cruel to yourself. I am saying you need to listen to the truth, even when it is uncomfortable. The truth is not found in that comfortable 20% of your potential. The truth is in the other part of your brain that tells you to look at yourself honestly. It says you are wasting a huge percentage of your potential. We have 80% more that we are not using or tapping into. The reason we do not access this other 80% is because getting to it requires going through suffering, pain, failure after failure, self-doubt, and darkness. But after you go through all of that difficult stuff, there is a whole bunch of light waiting for you to get to that light. You have to go through all the hard things first. Most people do not want to do that. They do not want to build that willpower because the process is scary. It unlocks a lot of things about who you really are and who you are not. Many people do not want to go on that journey of self-discovery because it is not a pretty journey to take. It is not like I went through this process just once and then I was done. I go through it all the time, constantly. When you unlock that potential and build that willpower, you cannot just turn it off like a switch. People ask me why I have not retired yet, even though I have achieved success. The answer is that I built all this willpower over the years. Do you think that willpower is going to let me just retire because my knees hurt? Every morning when I wake up, my body tells me that my knees hurt, my legs hurt, my whole body hurts. But that voice also tells me that I can still run. So it asks me why I am not running. If I can still run, there will be a time in the future when I cannot lace up my running shoes anymore. But right now I can still run. So I still run. Many of us know this truth deep down inside. We know that we can get to that higher level of performance, but we also know that the journey to get there is not fun. Going from that comfortable 20% to 100% of our potential requires going through all the stuff in between, and that stuff is not enjoyable. So we decide to stay in the comfortable place instead. When people ask me how to do this, how to build this kind of willpower and discipline, the truth is that you already know exactly how to do it. You know exactly what needs to be done. It is not a magic trick or some secret formula. Everything I talk about is backed by a very simple and primitive mindset. We just have to do the work. Period. Think about breathing. Breathing becomes so normal and automatic that we do not even realize we are doing it. That is how you have to live your life when it comes to discipline and hard work. When that alarm clock goes off at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, your mind will say no. You just have to tell yourself that this is what we do now. This is our new normal. To get to where you want to go in life, the amount of pain involved is significant. I am not talking about just physical pain. I am not saying you have to break your body. I am talking about the mental pain that comes from doing things you do not want to do over and over again to reach your goals. There are going to be many more times when you have to do something you do not want to do than times when you actually want to do it. That becomes your new normal way of living. Once you do this over and over again, it becomes like breathing. It becomes automatic. I do not want to live this kind of lifestyle, but to get to the other side of where I want to be, I have to live this way. If you really want something badly enough, you will understand what real trying means versus what fake trying looks like. I sat there one day and told myself that this was my life. I looked at who I was and said this is exactly who I am. And this is not going to be good enough for me. So right there in that restaurant where I was working, I quit my job. I left my spray canister right there in the restaurant, got back in my truck, and went home. From that moment, I started working out like I was obsessed. I became the most obsessed person on the planet when it came to improving myself. I had to invent a version of myself that did not exist before. I had to create someone who could take any amount of pain, any suffering, any kind of judgment from other people. Someone who could be called names and criticized but still be able to stand in any room and tell people to go away if they were being negative. I had to build what I call a callous mind, and I built it through suffering. I built it by crushing myself with difficult challenges. Exercise. My instinct became the opposite. I told myself we have to go out there, especially when conditions are bad. Anything that was horrible in my life, anything that I would normally say no to, anything that seemed inhumane to most people, I forced myself to go do it. This is how I started building calluses on my mind. I lost the weight I needed to lose and went back to the military recruiter. I got into the training class and ended up going through 3 Navy SEAL Hell Weeks in 1 year. As far as I know, I am the only person to ever be in 3 Hell Weeks in 1 year. I did not make it through the first one, but I made it through the next 2. From that point on, I did not stop pushing myself. I started realizing through this whole process that the mind is something you create and shape yourself. I began opening doors that I did not think were even there. Doors I did not think existed. The more doors I opened up, the more I realized that my potential was almost endless. This completely changed my whole way of thinking about myself and what I was capable of achieving. Discipline is important, but without a clear headspace, there can be no real discipline. Think of your mind like a circuit breaker. If I load everything onto one circuit and just keep adding more and more, it is going to blow. Once that circuit breaker trips, the whole system is messed up. You have to have each thing plugged into the right spot, organized properly. Think of it like a crowded garage where you cannot put anything new in it. Once your brain becomes crowded with too many things, discipline becomes very difficult. Motivation might be great, but if you cannot fit anything new in your brain because it is all cluttered up with other stuff, there is no room for discipline. You might have discipline sometimes when it fits into that crowded garage of your mind, but you will not have the consistency you need to maintain that discipline over time. I call this concept mental zones. I do not get into it too much because we would be here all day talking about it, but basically it means organizing your mind so you can properly apply discipline. Many people talk about discipline and wonder why they keep falling off track. Why can they not continue with their routines of going to the gym, being better, waking up early, or eating the right foods? It is because maybe they are thinking about their kids, their spouse, their job, and all of these concerns are just stuffed into their brain without any organization. They do not have their thoughts compartmentalized and organized on nice, clean mental shelves. Look at a well-organized garage where everything has its place. If you need dumbbells, you know exactly where they are. But in most people's minds, when they need something like discipline, they have to search through mental clutter. They are throwing things around, looking through boxes, trying to find what they need. Everything is messed up and disorganized. Where are you going to put discipline in that kind of mind if you cannot find other basic things? You have to be able to find all the different tools and qualities in your mind easily. You should be able to say that discipline goes right there, consistency goes right there, and all these important things have their proper spot. This is what I am talking about when I say your life needs to be organized. Your life includes everything around you, because it takes just one small messed up piece of outside interference to clutter your whole mind. People do not understand this concept. Your mind has to always be clear and organized. That is why I meditate for 2 hours every single night. I use this time to refresh and reorganize the garage, which is my mind. I put everything back in its proper place so that discipline, organization, and everything else is in the right spot. When I wake up in the morning, I am ready to go because everything in my mind is where it should be. This is what most people do not understand about building a strong human being. You start with small building blocks, and before you know it, you become something that does not even make sense to most people. It becomes just who you are naturally. That is why I can still run at 50 years old with broken down knees and a broken down body. My body knows I still can run, so I do. The second you stop pushing yourself, that willpower disappears.